Don't you know? It's not just Monday night. It's the Monday night before the midterm elections tomorrow. Don't you know democracy is at stake? Don't you know that the United States is on the brink of complete catastrophe? Don't you know that everything you'd ever held dear, every time you'd ever pledged allegiance, every time you ever saluted, every time you ever went to a 4th of July and ate way too many hot dogs and a pie made out of apples, apple pie, and doing all types of patriotic fireworky things, blowing parts of your body in pieces and singing the national anthem on a regular basis while pledging the allegiance. It's all at stake. And if you don't vote properly tomorrow, it's gone. And the greatest travesty of all is the next Monday, there will no longer be a Brad Stine Has Issues. And how will you survive without me? Hey folks, it's God's comic Brad Stine, and this, whether you like it or not, is Brad Stine Has Issues, where comedy, conservatism, and Christianity collide in a cacophony of clarity. Wyatt, was that cacophony clarified enough, or was the cacophony somehow deconstructed into chaos?
You know, I've got to say, I learned something new today.
Oh,
something
what?
new, yeah, and thanks to you.
This what?
Yeah.
You mean I inspired you and in some ways educated you, almost like a father to a son? And I don't know if you're aware of this, my son, but you issued from my loins.
Come on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I just apparently found out today that there was a midterm coming up. I didn't know that at all.
You realize that means tomorrow you vote for other candidates than virtually all of the ones that are in office as we speak. Son, you're 26 years old. I gave you life. I gave you the ability to exist. You understand, I don't know if you're aware of this, son, but before you existed on the face of the earth, I did. You understand that? When I discuss, this is an odd thing. When I talk to you about something that happened in the 80s, and you go, oh, yes, I read about that. Oh, I saw that on the internet. Ah, yes, I remember a movie I watched from that time period. It was very interesting. Yeah, wow, way before my time. Like if I had said, oh, I watched a movie from the 50s. I didn't exist. Didn't just not like be aware, like I was so young. I didn't exist on Earth. So I see things that others created before I existed as an entity, and I draw references from that point. But Wyatt, when you reference the 80s and even some of the early 90s, you weren't even here. I was going around talking, creating stuff. You didn't even exist. Wyatt, I created you from whole cloth.
That's honestly, I'm just glad that wasn't a loins joke again, because I think all of the audience can agree that ship needs to sail right off a cliff.
Wyatt, there is nothing jokey about my loins.
Yeah, sure, that's right. Yeah, but who are the candidates for this midterm that I totally knew was a thing this year? Yep.
We're going to get to that, but not right this second.
Well, why not?
I'm going to tell you why not, Your Highness. Because I need to do our annual start the program by saying hi to everybody. But notice, I don't have my magical iPad here so that I can be 15 people behind yours to see who actually was first. And here's the thing. I'm not looking today. Now you're thinking, oh, You've abandoned us? Why we show up on a regular basis. We're here every Monday. We're your favorite fans. You owe us that dignity. Oh, I do indeed. And I always dignify you, but I don't need to look today to honor the fact that Karen's out there. Karen's out there, Wyatt, and I know you see who it's there. I don't know. I know Benjamin Gregory, who had some surgery last week, and we pray for him, and I'm sure he's there. And I know that Nick Kress probably beat Karen to the punch this time because he's so sad and so frustrated that he's been supplanted and has lost the title, St. Nick. So he probably, very possibly, is first. Of course, Paula Marie Faye Rauchi, my favorite forenamed lady. She's out there, you know. I know who's out there, son. I know that the United Kingdom is there. I know that Ireland, North and South, is represented. I'm sure that G'day, Australia, has said hi. I know all that's there. I'm not looking today, son. You know why?
Because I forgot to charge the iPad, and now we don't have it, so I...
Well, some people might draw that conclusion from the lack of iPad access, but not here at Brad Stine Has Issues, where glitches are a bygone era, Wyatt.
I mean, listen, what Brad Stine Has Issues without issues is just Brad Stine, and who wants to see that?
What if we called it Issues Has Brad Stine?
I mean, in this context, that might work.
Well, if the iPad isn't charged because my producer screwed up, that'd be an issue.
Yeah.
So if Brad Stine, the famous face of the whole podcast, has no access to this, folks, and thus looks like a rube, an idiot, a buffoon, why, that's an issue that has him in its clutches, Wyatt.
But what
in
about,
its clutches.
But what about if the producer was just lying about the iPad being dead, and we had another reason not to use it, but we wanted to, for some paradoxical reason, convince the audience that it was my fault again, which it always is? What would you say to that?
That wouldn't be as fun.
I know it wouldn't be as fun, but, like, look, we are a podcast, we are a small podcast, we have to keep pushing the envelope if we want to be relevant. And that means doing stuff that nobody has ever done before, including directly lying to the audience.
But here's the problem. We are such a small podcast that not only do we push the envelope, we can't even afford an envelope. And I have told you that on a regular basis. You said, Dad, should I go buy an envelope so at least we have something to push? And I said, son, we can afford it. We barely are keeping this camera alive on a 3-legged tripod, which one leg is broken and is duct taped, and the duck is asking for it back.
I mean, audience, I don't think you know how bad it is. All Christmas cards that we're going to be sending this December, it's been our tradition in the family for the past 10 or so years to send the same one. We just can't afford anything else.
And you know why? Because the people refuse to send it back to us, so we can repurpose it.
At this point, the ink that we vote on it has faded away. It's just an empty blank card, but it's the tradition.
Tradition matters, son. How many times have I told you about tradition and how important it is? Did you know that no great nation can survive without tradition? Do you know that's one of my new routines in my next upcoming album that hasn't been made yet, but part of the concept is about traditions and how they're crucial?
Well, to answer your first question, you've told me it about 6 times within the past 30 seconds.
Traditionally, I wouldn't do that.
7.
Well, listen, I got to tell you why we didn't say hi to all of my favorite folks. And I love you guys. I do. The fact that you would show up every Monday, as I've said on a numerous occasion, is either because you're super loyal, super sweet, super committed, or you've had a super blow to the head and you have mental disorder.
Or maybe Facebook got stuck in this one channel and you can't change it back.
Could you imagine the hell that would be for someone to have to
watching this every Monday? I don't know how you'd survive.
You want to know who's watching this every Monday? I'll tell you, son. Because guess what?
Give me the answers.
I wanted this week to not avoid my favorite people that show up on a regular basis, who I love, and I always come afterwards and look at your comments, and I'll check a like, and I let you know I'm really here, and I'm very, very, very aware that you guys show up.
Maybe we'll comment in the chat the second we figure out how to.
Yeah, it's once we learn how to do the technology. But I want this to be a time of saying thank you to donors who allow this podcast to humbly creep step by step. I wanted to say baby steps, but we don't have our feet yet. So baby knees as we crawl by crawl, flat on our face, crawl, flat on our face, crawl, pooped our pants, crawl, peed, crawl, back up, crawl, fell asleep. That's how it works so far, White. And guess what?
That's the metaphor you've workshopped for weeks to explain this about? Really? That was your magnum opus on describing something without referencing it.
What else?
You are a modern day Shakespeare.
What else, son, is a metaphor? Now, here's the deal. I wanted to say thank you to the recent contributions of David Irving. David Irving on November 1st, which was, 6 days ago. This is the 7th. So if my wrath is correct, and it's probably not because I have a lot of attention to my podcast. Math must be moved away so I have more space in my brain to work on the podcast. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with committing to the podcast and not to mathematics?
I mean, how about the fact that it's basic addition that you couldn't get right? Which actually, I think you did. I think it's just the 7th.
Yeah.
But the fact that you didn't realize that and still second-guessed your stuff still means that you failed.
Son, I don't care. I don't care if I'm good at math. I can't be good at everything.
Okay, but you have to be good at something.
I'm not good at math. I'm good at everything else.
Okay, let's...
David Irving on November 1st. That's last Monday, I think. Or, no, I don't know. Anyways, last week. Gave on a regular basis, this man gives and donates to this. Now, yes, it's tax deductible. Oh, by the way, we're coming to the end of the year. If you are looking for some tax deductions, if you want to, you can show up here every day, never give a dime, and listen to anything I have to say. It's between you and God. But if you like it and want to keep it going and help it grow, which we're trying to do, we have some potential things coming up that might excite you. You can donate, and it's a tax deduction. So you can give it to the government, or you can give it to your own hedonistic desires, or you can give it to the ministry that changes lives one metaphor at a time, or in this case, one glitch at a time.
Or you can give it to us.
Yeah, that would be, don't you think I could want to be grateful? Daniel Graff, Marina Downs gave on the 29th, and it was very generous. I'm going to tell you, she gave $100, son. $100.
That's a lot of envelopes.
It's a lot of envelopes, and it's more money than you make in 2 weeks at Lowe's. So again,
don't remind me.
I know. Marshall Pyle gave. He gives every month. Thank you, Marshall. Matthew Holder. This man gives regularly. Thank you, Matthew Holder. Marina Downs. Did she give another one, or was this the same one that I'm re-looking at? Anyways, I'm sure she did. Marshall Pyle, yeah, he gave again. Matthew Holder, this is another time. Alexa Green, now this was something that we did because this was actually a donation for a DVD I sent, or maybe it was a book. James Holman, he gives regularly. Rebecca Bland gives. John Walter, thank you, sir, very good. Adam Ripka, this man gives regularly. Thank you so much. David Irving. Daniel Graff again. Danielle Herring. Now this was something she gave a while back as an investment towards. I'm trying to remember what it was for. It was quite a very generous $200 donation, Wyatt. I mean, what do you do when somebody gives you that? It's humbling. Marshall Pyle gave again. Matthew Holder gave again. James Holman, Tammy Malone. These are like within the last 2 months. Tammy Malone gave. Rebecca Bland, Adam Wolf, Adam Ripka, whoever you guys are. Wyatt, do you remember an Adam Ripka or an Adam Wolf or a David Irving commenting regularly? And you have it in front of you, so don't go look it up. I'm just asking. Do you remember these folks commenting regularly on the show?
Not
I don't either.
recently, no.
Or Matthew Holder, Marshall Pyle, does any of that sound familiar to you?
They may just be looking, which means that they don't comment.
I know, but that's my point.
Yeah.
While the rest of the folks comment
Mm-hmm.
and donate nothing but their comments, which are liked and appreciated, these guys are given actual dough, and
Yeah,
I just
and
it's
then
so appreciative.
pretending that they don't exist.
I know, and then they fade back into the dark like a ninja.
It's like a clippered old hand throwing a few shillings out of the darkness before retching back in.
Son, I love the analogy of the crippled old hand. Not just a hand, but it's crippled. So we get this. We get almost this Midas sort of slash Scrooge. But it's an old hand, too. So Wyatt gave us all the pieces of the puzzle. So you don't have to do the work anymore, folks. We do the work for you.
That's right. You're not the only one who knows about a metaphor, too.
Do they know about Brad Stine's famous book, Being a Christian Without Being an Idiot?
Well, they do now.
And assume truths that will make us look stupid. Let me tell you guys some of the chapters that are in this legendary book. And why I only call it legendary because it's a masterpiece.
Oh, okay.
The first one is called Satan Shoots Himself. So you did that so dryly that it was funny and it made me laugh.
That's kind of the point. That's how humor works.
It was wonderful. Satan shoots himself in the hoof. That's chapter 1. Chapter 2, dead people always run late. Chapter 3, be not drunk with grape juice. Chapter 4, saints and strip clubs. Woohoo! Woo-hoo! Chapter next, fame, failure, and Pharisees. Wow. Here's one. Can I say sex in church? Next chapter, the Oscar goes to. Chapter next, bless this holy hairdo. Next chapter, my brain hurts.
My brain hurts.
I know.
You know, I thought when you said you couldn't do math that you were joking, but you literally have referred to half these chapters of chapter next.
Hey, I know. Hey, Wyatt, where is the reference from my brain hurts?
Oh, God. So,
Where does it sound familiar?
I don't know.
Monty Python! I think it was the Gumbies. My brain hurts! I didn't get it from them, but I know
just
that's right.
knowing you, it could have been anything.
Hey, did you hear this chapter? Toilets are only for pagans. And here's another chapter, the last chapter, which is a brand new chapter. Some of you might have known that this was released years ago in a brown cover. This is an updated version, updated to 2021, I think. So there's even a complete other chapter in here called The Holy Spirit is Actually My Feelings. So this is what you can have. If you want to get this for Christmas for your people, here's what you do. You donate $55. $5 is what it costs to send it. And you say to me, I'd like to give this as a Christmas gift. No, it's $55. It's a paperback. So yes, you can get it cheaper. But you tell me, I'm getting this to my husband Joe. I'm giving this to my uncle Leonard. And so you will say, here's the link. We'll send you the link. You will do $55. You'll show me the receipt. Then you private message me with the address and who you want it signed to. And I will personally sign to Uncle Leonard, whatever, Brad Stine God's Comic, and I will send it to you for Christmas. And it's a way for you to get a tax break, but also to help support this ministry. And let's face it, why this ministry keeps some people afloat.
It's also a cure for that last-minute shopping when it's, December 24th, and you're like, oh, wait, gifts. I forgot that part.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, what have you gotten me? It is thought of.
You?
Yeah, what have you thought of? Any ideas?
I got you a right-handed glove.
Okay.
That you put on. It's like a batting glove for baseball, or what would be another way to say, or a glove that you would use, let's say, in any kind of format where you need a good grip.
Okay.
Good grip. Not a left, just a right, so that when you push buttons in the future, you won't slip and miss or glitch it, or turn it off, or forget to put on my mic. Things that you do.
Producer glove.
What? You're welcome. It's beginning to feel a lot like Christmas with your non-slip producer
It's
glove.
November. I don't need Christmas songs.
Well, anyways, you know why I did that, son? I'm sentimental to Christmas, and 2, don't know any Thanksgiving.
So, okay, seriously though, they're all how many Christmas songs?
44, if last time I counted.
I doubt that. There were a lot less, but still a substantial amount of Halloween songs.
Oh, like? Caught?
Oh, Monster Mash. Do not forget the Monster Mash.
It was a monster mash.
Okay, but there were, like, even Easter, I think, has at least 1 or 2. Thanksgiving? Nothing.
Yeah, ain't right. We need to do that. We need to matter of fact, that's going to be our we're going to write a song together, a Thanksgiving song. Before Thanksgiving comes in, we'll sing it together on air in one of our podcasts before Thanksgiving. Now listen, before we go any further, what is it, Wyatt? What is it, Wyatt?
I'm just letting the audience know, if you ever want to check out that train wreck,
son,
Brad Stine Has Issues.
Listen,
be there.
How do you know it won't be brilliant? How do you know you and I will write a Thanksgiving song, as you mentioned, doesn't exist, and suddenly it's virally sent out.
It's a viral infection.
It's a virus infection, Fauci approved, in a lab somewhere in Brentwood, Tennessee. And it becomes a standard, and you and I get royalties. Do you want to continue to mock it, son? Or are you going to be Thanksgiving the song soon?
You know how I know it won't do well?
No.
Because the people making it are us.
But listen, we tried. Isn't there something for effort, like we got good hearts?
Yeah, a consolation prize, a participation trophy. Which would you prefer?
How about consoling me with a participation trophy? Kind of a hybrid.
What about allowing me to participate in a constellation prize?
Oh, wow. Now you've got stars in your eyes.
Is that the 4th of July song?
No, that was Constellation.
Oh, is that a Christmas song?
No, that's a song about the heavens that God created with one fell swoop. Speaking of fell swoop.
So New Year's.
Yes. Each year is new, if we want to call it 362 days. But what if we decided that you have to go around the sun 362 times, 10 times to make 1 year? We could have done that. We decided every time around becomes a 1 year. We could have said, nah, that's just a 10th of a year. We could have. We didn't. And it's your fault, and I'm going to tell you why. Because you won't let me tell the people what really matters.
I'm just trying to entertain the audience on this entertainment podcast. Excuse me for getting the job right.
Son, I think your most accurate word in that sentence was try. I know you're trying.
Honestly, if this podcast had a tagline, it would just be that.
We tried!
No, just tried.
Oh, yeah. Well, listen, here's what we're going to do. I have a very, very special guest today that you guys are going to love. It's a friend of mine, but he's got some very important ideas and thoughts and expertise in an area that everybody needs help in. Relationships. Because nothing is more essential and more difficult than men and women trying to get along without destroying each other. Now, Wyatt doesn't have to worry about that. He doesn't have a girlfriend, but soon he will, if there's somebody out there who feels sorry for him. But until that time, I want to let you know that tomorrow is the midterm elections. This is very important that we vote for people that sustain our values. We are a republic. They represent my voice, not just my vote, my voice. If I elect you, it's because what you go out and say and what you use in Congress or in the Senate to try to get laws passed that gets into the public cultural formula that allows us to be who we are. It doesn't happen unless you approve of it, because you are the government of the United States if you are a citizen of the United States. And I think it's very important that we understand something I've come to a conclusion with lately, and that is this. One of the things that made America so unique was that we are the only country built on a creed. We find these truths to be self-evident, that all men were created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, amongst which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Because of that, if you became a citizen of the United States of America, you immediately became an American. If you become a citizen of France, you're not called French. If you become a citizen of Germany, you do not be called a German. If you become a citizen of Australia, you don't be called Australian. And yet, if you become a citizen of the United States, even if you came from Cambodia, Australia and don't speak English, and it just happened, you are immediately American. That's why more people continue to try to get into this nation, even illegally, than any other nation on earth, because it's the greatest nation that's ever existed. But it won't be if we lose our freedoms and our liberties. It won't be if we allow people to destroy our ability to communicate or to dissent with doctors who have become politicized, or any other type of group that tells you you're not allowed to talk about them. Let me make something incredibly, painfully true. If there's ever a group in the world, or in our case the United States, that tells you you can't talk about us, that means, hey, let's talk about them the most. If you forbid me to criticize you, you deserve and need the most criticism and scrutiny. So tomorrow's a big day. Get your butts up and be grateful you're in a free nation, and go exercise your First Amendment right to vote. But how? How do we know? Isn't that what people say? Oh, if you're a Christian, you got to vote for this guy. No, you got to vote for this guy. And notice how the Christians have different voices. Like, you vote for this guy and you go for this. See how they have different voices depending on which party they're on? But either way, how do you decide how to vote? Well,
coin toss.
What?
Coin toss. That's how you vote. You just...
Sometimes people do that. Sometimes people do that. And sometimes a coin toss will give you just as good a results. But I wanted to give you a deeper way to analyze how to decide who you should vote for. And what better way to do that than from a rant from the original Brad Stine Has Issues, it's shot in California, that you can use to help persuade you and guide you in this very important election tomorrow. So Wyatt, if you be so kind, and I know you don't have a glove, try not to slip, try not to glitch, and let them be informed with this unbelievably deep, beautiful, special Brad Stine Has Issues rant. Hey, it's God's Comic Brad Stine, and here's my question to you. How do you decide who to vote for in presidential elections? Secondly, why don't you just choose the person I do? Make it a lot easier on all of us. Skeptical? Come on in. All right, many of you may not have heard about this, but we have a very important presidential election coming up shortly. And so, I don't know, I thought I'd spend a moment examining what criteria should be considered when voting for the person that will become the most powerful leader on earth. First thing you always need to remember is that we are a constitutional republic. Republic means rule the people. So if you're human, you fall in the category of the people. So the first criteria you should examine would be, does the person you're going to vote for represent your point of view? Remember, because we vote for people to carry our voice to Congress and the Senate, we should be very sober in considering that how they defend and implement certain concerns, laws, and traditions of our country, you are approving of. They are your representative. And so when you see your candidate make a speech or buy a bagel or kiss a baby, that's you. So number one, do they represent your concerns and desires for the functioning of this great nation? Number two, are they strict adherents to the Constitution? Remember that even though they represent your voice and desires, they are bound by the rule book the founders put in place. So we would know what we are allowed to do and what we aren't allowed to do in order to remain as consistent and fair in regards to maintaining order and defending the freedoms and liberties of the entire country as possible. Third, every president could possibly be nominating another Supreme Court judge. Now, this is incredibly important because of the three branches of government instituted by the Constitution to separate powers and remain a check and a balance on each other. None of these has done more damage, has made more blunders, has used their position to inculcate their personal point of view over the original intent of the Constitution than the judiciary. The founders believed that the judicial branch was actually the weakest of the three, because all they were expected to do was not make laws, not, redefine laws, not edit the Constitution or read into it ideas and concepts that were never there, but were only there to make sure that the law-making branch, which is the Congress, simply made no laws that breached the Constitution. Oh, and are you ready? The original intent of the Constitution. See, if you think I'm being over-dramatic, just keep in mind that everyone who reads the Constitution sees clearly that, for example, all human beings are equal and deserve to be free based on the dignity given them by their Creator, which is apparently how the Supreme Court in 1857 in the Dred Scott decision reached the conclusion that slavery was okay. Also keep in mind that for 150 years, the freedom a state or even the federal government had in using taxpayer dollars to secular and religious institutions was considered fair and balanced. Even Jefferson signed treaties to send Christian ministers to Native Americans. Yet suddenly, in 1947, the Supreme Court found that treating religious schools equally in regards to funding for bus vouchers for sending students to religious schools, which, by the way, allowed the freedom for all Americans, secular and religious, to equally share in where their taxes were distributed, was suddenly unconstitutional. Up until then, it wasn't. What happened? The Supreme Court decided to find a law that was never there before, to institute a new version of the Constitution so their secular point of view could be established. Fair? Of course not. But that's why getting Supreme Court justices that are originalists, that is, interpret laws through the prism of the original intent of the Constitution, is the only way we can maintain consistency and allow the most amount of freedom for the most amount of Americans, even the ones you hate. We need a woman president. We need a gay president. Never mentioned is their competence or their experience. Please keep in mind that the single most important right in the Constitution is the first line, the freedom of religion. Now, you might think, I'm prejudiced because I'm a Christian, but you would be in error. The reason it is the most important is because it represents the freedom of conscience. It deserves the most protection because it allows the secular and atheist and religious the most fair and equal treatment under the law. By the way, I hope you've noticed the criteria I'm exploring here in regards to what is most important in a president. Notice, I haven't told you who to vote for or anything about the candidate other than the only thing that should matter, their philosophy in regards to America, our Constitution, and the good of the people. But let me tell you what should be considered irrelevant in your choice. What we don't need is the first woman president. We don't need the first gay president, or the first black woman, or Hispanic, or the first transgendered president. You see, to categorize candidates based on a physical trait, or a gender trait, or a behavioral trait has absolutely nothing to do with the most important feature necessary for a great leader: competency. Keep in mind that one of the many reasons leftism is so damaging to society is because it values group distinctions over proven experience and philosophical acumen. Remember, it is the left that instituted the idea that we need to lower the bar for college admissions in order to help out minorities that might be excluded because they aren't doing as well in testing. Can you possibly be more condescending, racist, and arrogant as to belittle others based on race by claiming how sensitive and protective you are of other races than your own. So let me leave you with this. If you truly care about freedom in America, fairness, jobs, defense, liberty, and civility, then you're going to have to vote for the person that not only champions those ideals, but has a track record of actually implementing them when they were in a position to do so. America is on the brink of potentially imploding forever. This experiment isn't over yet, and it is volatile. Vote your conscience, folks, but do us all a favor. Pray that we are able to continue as a nation that sees each other and all our variables as Americans. If you don't love the country that has given you this privilege, you are the problem. This is God's comic, Brad Stine, and clearly PC-free is liberty. Now, I know most of you just watched this episode are thinking, can we vote for you for president? No, you can't. But you know what you can do? You can vote for me by going to Brad Stine Has Issues on YouTube and subscribe to it and challenge all your friends to do the same. Go to my Facebook fan page and like and follow. Now, why do we tell you to do that? Because it builds up our numbers and it shows advertisers and so forth that people want this content. And that's the only way I can keep this going. You know, I mean, somebody's got to pay for this stuff. And right now it's kind of me and I'm going broke. But if you guys would just help me show that what I'm doing matters. And if it doesn't, don't. But if you think what I have to say could be of value, please, I need you actually to go subscribe to YouTube and Facebook so I can stick around. Thank you so much for voting. And yes, I would have been a great president. You know, I don't oftentimes bring up that I need your subscriptions on YouTube, but I do. It's not hard. You just go to subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. Wyatt, I should charge them. I don't. And yet, they don't come and subscribe. Some have, but do you know that most of them who are my fans haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, Brad Stine Has Issues? Wyatt, can I blame you for that?
You can blame me for anything you want. I am the producer, after all.
Oh.
I'm the reason this podcast exists.
Ooh.
Not because you had the idea, not because you spent all the time and money setting all this equipment up and then hiring me to run it. No. I'm the producer. It's my responsibility. That's yours. That's what you would say, right?
So you're saying that this podcast exudes from your loins?
I don't think I ever would have wanted to say that, but I guess I can't say you're wrong.
Okay.
And I hate that.
Yes.
I hate this fact.
Me don't either.
You don't. Okay, listen, you're bad at math. I can accept that, but at least understand proper grammar.
Okay.
You're running out of skills that you can show you're good at. And
What?
it's kind of not good for a podcast.
I love you, son, but did you have to bring up my grammar? Both of them have died, and it hurts. It hurts to the quick.
Okay.
Listen, I gotta tell you something. Here's the key. When we talk about voting and how important it is, I'm telling you, there are people in this world that can't vote. So this is crucial that you take advantage of that. Do you hear that weird sound?
That is the sound of somebody forgetting we're recording.
Huh?
Well, you know. Yeah, recording the thing, yeah.
Okay. If
The
you
podcast,
just heard an
yeah.
odd... If you just heard that was not my wife opening the garage door.
No.
That was the sound, and we weren't going to bring this up, but yes, we have contacted some alien life forms. Yes, they do have a spaceship. Yes, it does hover over us. And yes, after the show, we will go hang out with them and probe them like they will probe us to try to find the depth of knowledge of what they've discovered from alternative universes, because they've learned how to pierce the wormhole, which is better than piercing your pie hole, which happens a lot of times when people won't shut up. Does that make sense, Mark?
I mean, what's the pie hole, though? Because technically, the pie goes through two holes. which one's the pie hole?
Ooh, that was kind of a worldly joke. Not like my son to go that direction, but he did.
Listen.
Why? Because he's been hanging out with his old
I'm
man.
trying to distract people from the fact that some people in this household forget that every Monday at 7 p.m. we do this thing where we record ourselves spending an hour doing stuff,
changing
and then we release it to the universe.
To the universe, changing everybody, making everybody happy, changing their lives. You know how many people we have talked down off the ledge that were literally on the ledge, and because of us, they got off the ledge and ate some pie in their hole?
Some people think that we just do this stuff live every week, and that's the end of it.
I know.
And then we'll delete it from existence. But we keep it archived on Facebook, on YouTube, so that if any of you people, for some reason, decide it's not worth coming in tonight, you can still examine our brilliance.
Yeah. Well, some of those people, with that inconsiderate, are called Mom. Let me tell you something, folks. I want you to vote tomorrow. I want you to vote for, and maybe that gave you some ways of articulating or not articulating, observing what these people stand for, what they believe, what does it matter. Freedom, liberty, truth, First Amendment, Second Amendment, Constitution, original intent. This is what we need if we're going to continue our traditions and continue to be free. It's crucial. It's not a joke. It's as real as it gets. Even for me to sit here in front of this mic and this camera and speak to you is because I live in a country that gives me that privilege. Not every country does. They don't have these in North Korea. Probably don't have them in China. And many of them aren't setting up podcasts in Antarctica. But still, here we sit. We're doing the best we can, and speaking of the best we can, I've got a special guest. Now, this is a guy you may have seen or heard of on the internet. Now, he's a pastor. Now, you might think, a pastor? Well, why would he be on the internet? Would I have seen him? Or why would I have seen him? Well, he's beyond just a normal pastor. Looks like she's decided. She's decided, son, not only to open the garage, but are you ready for this? She wants to close the garage as well. She doesn't. You don't think she's out there laughing at us, mocking and pointing?
She probably hired the aliens to mess with our podcast today. Because you know what? I bet you those aliens, they don't want us talking about the election tomorrow. They're doing everything in their power to derail us.
You know why? The aliens are controlled by Putin.
That is not what I was going to say, but good for you, pal.
That's why God invented me, so I'd say what you could.
Yes. Literally, your entire life was only relevant for that 1 2-second sound bit that nobody's going to remember or care about after this.
So if I drop dead right now from my heart disease...
your life would have been fulfilled.
Well, there you have it, folks. So let me just end this podcast, if it is my last, with an introduction to one of the most unique pastors, most down-to-earth, earthy, gritty, real guy, funny, loves God, but truly one of a kind. And he kind of went viral on the internet because his specialty is marriage. He has his own ministry called Laugh Your Way to a Better Marriage, and he is the pastor in Green Bay, and his name is Mark Gungor. And just to give you a taste before we bring him on of what he got virally known for was this clip from his opening segment on his weekend marriage conferences, Laugh Your Way to Better Marriage, with this unique presentation called A Tale of Two Brains. I'm going to show you just a taste of it, and then when we come back, we will be talking with Mark Gungor. But for right now, this is just a flavor of what he's all about.
Well, you fill in the blanks. Okay? So now, We're going to start discussing men's brains, women's brains, and how they're very different from each other. Now, I want to start with men's brains. All right? Now, men's brains are very unique. Men's brains are made up of little boxes. And we have a box for everything. We've got a box for the car. We've got a box for the money. We've got a box for the job. We've got a box for you. We've got a box for the kids. We've got a box for your mother somewhere in the basement. We got boxes everywhere. And the rule is the boxes don't touch. When a man discusses a particular subject, we go to that particular box, we pull that box out, we open the box, we discuss only what is in that box. All right? And then we close the box and put it away, being very, very careful not to touch any other boxes. Sorry, my Catholic upbringing got in there for a minute, but I'm not a Catholic, but I went to Catholic school when I was little. I had a nun who taught on hell like she was born and raised there. I mean, I'll never forget it, but it did me good, actually. It was a good thing. Now, women's brains are very, very different from men's brains. Women's brains are made up of a big ball of wire. And everything is connected to everything. The money's connected to the car's connected to your job, and your kids are connected to your mother, and everything's connected to everything. It's like...
That's just a little clip of what this odd, eccentric, unorthodox pastor gentleman does in his ability to try to unknot the Gordian knot, the literal most difficult feat that a human being can do. It is not making it on the moon with a computer that didn't have as much information as like our cell phones do. Wasn't about circumnavigating the globe when we thought there would be dragons on the no. There is nothing more difficult, more ridiculous, and probably more futile than trying to understand the brain of a woman. It is taking lunacy to new levels. Meanwhile, they look at us and go, yeah, you're pretty much idiots as well. So this has been the battle since Adam and Eve were naked and suddenly ruined that. But I've had the pleasure of being friends with this next gentleman. He's a pastor, but I got to say this. I got a handful of people I know in my life and have known over the years that God has put into my life based on my crazy comedy and style and personality. And there's a handful of them that I just have a little special place in my heart, and this guy has one of them because he's one of the most interesting, real, down-to-earth pastors I've ever known. He's a man of God, but he's just regular guy. I mean, you would more expect to see him at a football game on a Friday night and then find him in the gutter drunk the next night.
Well, that may happen from time to time.
True, and that's probably on its way. But anyways, he's a really interesting guy. And if you've never seen not only the Tale of Two Brains, which went viral, but his incredible weekend gatherings, Laugh Your Way to a Better Marriage, and you have issues with your marriage, or you just got married, which means you're going to have issues, I would seriously recommend you go and spend time with him and get to know him. and what he has to teach. But I'm gonna do you an amazing favor and introduce you to an old friend and comrade in fighting the good fight in America, Pastor Mark Gungor. How are you, Marcus?
I love this guy. He's awesome.
Ah, you're so sweet. Well, listen, brother, I know that you
Talking about myself.
What happened? Oh, yeah.
I was talking about myself.
See, he was talking.
Here's the height of professionalism: eating a Reese's Pieces while being interviewed.
Yeah. See, this is what I'm saying, folks. So many of these pastors, and I've interviewed them. So many of these pastors are like professional, and they want to be sophisticated and have that high quality. Not Mark. He said, no, I'd rather just eat while I'm here. I may not even answer your questions. I'm kind of bored. I just got here. Maybe he might go off to the pool. He's not wearing pants. I know that. That's it. But I just wanted, I don't remember when we first met Mark. It was probably, 10 years ago or more. I think I think the first time was maybe when you started the Manly Man conferences, and I know I did a couple of those with you. Maybe I did a show with you prior to that. But just for a quick background, everybody asks you the same thing. I always try to find new angles to when I talk to guests. But just quickly, because if they don't know you, tell them a little bit about your church, how long you've had it in Green Bay, and kind of what you feel your mission in life is as a Christ follower, but unique in your approach.
I've been in Green Bay for, 20 years. And I have a church called Celebration Church. And just my mission is just to share Jesus with people, love people, encourage people.
Yes.
To get their heads out of their behinds and live a normal Christian life.
Amen.
That's my goal. I remember once we were in I can't remember where we were at, honestly. This is years ago. And you and my brother Ed, he's a bishop, were sitting and discussing deep theological statements and stuff.
Yeah.
And I finally said, you guys give me a headache, man.
Yeah.
I said, I'm just trying to get guys to quit masturbating.
I know. That's right.
I need to kind of unravel the mysteries of the universe.
Yeah.
I got away from you guys.
I'm just
it's really crazy.
Well, and I know, and I remember that conversation. Now that I think about it, for a lot of reasons. One being, rarely do pastors discuss masturbation without that I'm aware of. Maybe you do it at pastors' conferences amongst yourselves, but not normally with the layman. But I remember, and honestly, it's a great sort of segue into people knowing you, because I want them to know you, let alone the information you're about to deliver. Because I think that one of the things I really respect about what you've done from what I watch is how raw it is. And it's not for shock value. It's not because you're trying to be irreverent or you're just, whatever reason, just want to push the envelope. I know it's your personality, but I feel like you just want to be so relevant and real that people will listen to what you have to say, because it's not coming from some sort of academic. It's coming from a guy that's also lived this life and tried to figure it out, and it's hard. It's hard to be a Christian. It's hard to be holy. It's hard to be virtuous. It's hard to be a good husband. It's hard. It's difficult. We're sinners trying to figure this thing out, and by the time we even begin to get a piece of the puzzle as we get older, we're kind of done, or we have arthritis. So I love that about you. Well, so tell me about, because I showed the clip, a clip of A Tale of Two Brains prior to us talking, in case people hadn't seen it before. But that clip absolutely blew up. I remember when it first kind of hit YouTube, and I think you guys were really just beginning to experiment with social media and figuring that out. And you both will kind of scratch, or whoever was involved with it, scratch your head like, what has happened? But it went nuts. Yeah. So, and it's what, an hour long, the whole clip?
All the whole footage is probably 4 hours. I mean, so
Oh, yeah, but I mean that particular segment about the men and women brain.
yeah, it's one hour deal.
Yeah, and it went millions and millions and millions viral.
Over 100 million.
Yeah, 100 million.
You know what? You know what? How it started out was you being a professional person. You remember the early days, guys were really struggling with the whole internet. You know,
Yeah.
if people see me online, then they won't want to come see me in person, right? So we were all scared to death of people seeing our material, and there was just going to be the death knell. I remember stations like Comedy Central stuff couldn't get guys to come on because, wow, man, if people see my routine, I'm done. I'll never come back. I was super paranoid, you know, copyright and da 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 da. And just one day I got a call from this guy. He said, "Hey man, do you mind if we take one of your little 5-minute clip of your brain thing and put it on our server?" And I don't know, I was just in a good mood. I said, "Yeah, sure, who cares? Why not?" So he does it. And 5 days later, he calls me. He says, "Our servers are crashing. So many people are watching this. Can we put this on YouTube?" I said, "I never heard of YouTube. What's a YouTube?" And he tried to explain it to me. I didn't know what he was talking about. And again, I said, "Yeah, what the heck? Go ahead and do it." Well, anyway, then I started chasing down YouTube. And we were like, I don't know if they still do this, like the top clips of the day or the week or the month or whatever. We were like,
I don't know because I've never been on
like 3, 4. Oh, yeah. I mean, it just went insane. And seriously, we added a bunch because it was different clips. He added almost over 100 million views and still going crazy. And then that's when all of a sudden my phone starts ringing like crazy. So, and I used to put in my DVDs, if you want to show this in the church, you got to call us and get a license and all this. You remember back in the day, right? And of course, nobody did. Everybody just broke all the copyright laws. But I soon learned that my greatest success in life is breaking copyright laws because the more people ignored the laws and showed it anyway and watched it, the more people were coming to see me live. So the exact opposite of what we all feared would happen is what started happening.
Yeah.
So, and to this day, I still get calls from all over the world to come and speak because they see that little clip. So, so now people say, "Is it okay we show your stuff on our channel?" Yeah, go ahead, do whatever. I don't care.
Yeah,
because it only helps.
It does, and I think that the music industry has found that out, like giving away free music and stuff that feels counterintuitive. It's like, where do I get my royalties? That's all we ever knew was that back table sale and so forth. I don't want to just stick it out there where anybody can look at it. But there is some magic to this idea that you put something out that people want, and you kind of can't keep up with the amount of potential buyers there are out there because we don't. When you're doing your little videotape, you're not thinking. You're doing it. I guess was that done at Celebration when you did the filming? Was it done at Celebration Church?
No, that was done in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Scottsdale, Arizona. So you're doing that, and you're not thinking. You might be thinking, yeah, it's gonna be a nice little video. We'll have our DVDs. You know, back when those existed, and I'll sell that, and maybe I'll get a couple gigs out of it now and again. You didn't know that what you were doing for that group of 300, 400 people, whatever it was, would be seen by millions. It's like what it must have been like to be on television in the 50s when there were 3 channels and like 10 shows out there. You were seen by 50, 100 million people because they had nothing else. And that's what happened with social media was when it was fresh and new, people were just hungry to see stuff that wasn't dictated by networks. I get to choose what I want to go look at. And it changed the ball game that none of us had anticipated. And so...
I mean, if it's not a thing, it's always kind of been like that, right? If you can get on the Ed Sullivan Show, that was the bomb, right? Your life has changed forever.
Right.
So I don't know where we got into this paranoia about, copyright and everybody seeing our stuff. All we know is that if you got in front of the people and they saw it,
it
was always good for you.
Well, I think that the concern was not that people would see it, but that somebody else would get paid for it instead of you was what we didn't want to happen, was that you're playing it and getting people to pay you for it. It's like, wait, that's mine. That was the problem. And I'm sure that happens too. But like you said, it paid off in spades for your live shows or I guess conferences, I guess you would call them. So let me ask you this then. When you put that together, And I do recommend you guys go find it on YouTube and watch the whole thing because it's brilliant.
And buy 30 copies.
Buy 30 copies and give them away to all of your people's friends' marriages that are collapsing. but so when you put that together, how long had you been doing marriage conferences prior? I mean, was this something that you'd already been doing quite a while? You said, I might as well film this, or was it kind of the beginning of that process for you?
It's kind of the beginning.
It was
fairly. I mean, I've been doing it for a few years, and we decided to tape it. And
yeah, so
I had an interesting journey. I mean, I don't even heard the whole story.
No,
but, what had happened? I was doing these events, and pastoring. I thought, it's hard to get people to show up at a marriage event. It's not easy to get people to come to a comedy event. I promise you. Selling tickets to a marriage event is like trying to sell tickets to a rectal exam. I mean, nobody wants to come, right? You need to do it, but you don't want to do it. So it's really hard. And I thought, this is such a drag. I'm just going to quit doing this and just focus on pastoring this church. Well, right about the time I decided to do this, I get this call from this multimillionaire. You guys would all know his name if I said it. He's that kind of a name in the country.
Ernest Borgnine?
That was him. Me and Ernest were like that. So he basically said, I hear you're helping couples stay married. And I said, well, I guess, I didn't tell him. I already decided to quit doing it. But he said, can I come talk to you? So sure. So he flies in with his entourage in his private plane. And he said, talking, to wrap it up in a nutshell, he's concerned about the country, right? And the fracturing of our culture. And it's all around the fracturing of homes. He said, so if we backed you to the tune of whatever it was, $5 million or something, would you take this nationwide? Well, what would he say to something like that? Let me pray about it.
Yeah.
I went, well, yeah, sure. Yeah. And that's what happened. It wasn't like $5 million went into my own personal account. You know how this goes into your ministry, and you got to pay out people and stuff. So it allowed us to go from 0 to 100 miles an hour overnight. Because typically in the church world, you got to do this thing for 15 years before anybody pays attention to you, right? Yeah. Well, that's how most businesses belly up. They get this great idea, they go for a while, they run out of money, and then they're dead in the water. So we had all this money backing us. And so it just took off really fast. We had all this financial support, and we wanted to do this video, and we had the money to hire the big production crew to come in. This wasn't done on a VHS camcorder. I mean, this is really high-end production stuff that they brought in. And so that's how all that happened, because of now that money's long gone. Although if anybody else wants to join in and back me to $5 million, I'm totally open to the idea.
Well, at least you still got that yacht out of it. So what the heck? You can't complain. But I think that's an interesting story, not only just because it's interesting on its own merits, but for someone to think that marriage was that important, or that there were so much challenges for marriages to work, how hard it is. And I remember all the times I've spoken to you over the years or listened to different conversations we've had, and you seem to be so non-typical in some of your perspectives. For example, you are a real big proponent of getting married young. If somebody's 18 years old, you'd say, so what? Get married, enjoy yourself, have a blast, knock it out of the park while you can, because, here we go. But so many books or counselors will always say, oh, but they're so young. They're so young. So what made you, and I think you got married young, and you had a wonderful, very long, beautiful marriage, but it's not, marriage is hard no matter what. But what was it that you saw about getting married at a younger age that you felt should be encouraged as opposed to telling people to wait?
Well, you have to remember, I'm a lot older than you, so when I get married back in the 1800s, this was normal, okay? Yeah. Actually, it's 1970, whatever it was. But the people who built this country routinely got married at 18, 19, 21 years of age. It was just common. A lot of them were 16. They had to get permission from their parents. These are the people who built these United States of America, this incredible world in which we live. People who got married young. This idea of waiting and waiting is a relatively new concept. This didn't start to kick in really strong until the 80s and 90s, where they get this idea that you need to wait. And how's that worked out for us? I mean, it's been an unmitigated disaster because people become sexually active anyway, but they're doing it all the wrong way. And you got these young men. We've created a whole generation of porn addicts. I'm talking about Christians. The world's one mess. Christians have created a generation of porn addicts because we tell them, well, you know, just wait. Well, they can't wait. You know what the answer the Bible says to this? And, you know, churches, well, we didn't answer. We need promise rings. You know, it's an absolute abysmal failure. What is 80-90% of all the kids who had promise rings gave up on their promise by their second year of college, whatever? I mean, it's just a joke. And we're clueless. The Bible says the answer to this, get a wife, get married.
Yeah.
Man, I was having fabulous sex at 18. I wasn't looking at porn. I don't need virtual sex. I was getting a real thing, for heaven's sakes.
Yeah.
So I think it's created a mess. It's created a disaster. And here's the thing. You and I have talked a million times about men, right? Men issues. People think, well, these guys, the boys are too immature. But age does not mature man. It never has. You know, that's why we still got 32-year-old guys still living at home with their mom. Their only skill is playing video games and masturbating. That's all they have. They've never grown up, because the one thing that has turned a boy into man since the beginning of time is responsibility, primarily in marriage. Every guy who ever got married remembers the day it just jerked the slack out of him, and he started taking life more seriously. And the next step, when you become a father, holy cow, that jacks up to the next level, right? So, any single girl watching this right now knows the problem. A young single girl is all the guys around them are immature idiots, and they don't even want them. A lot of these girls actually, Brad, feel more attracted to married men, like you and me. Do you know why? Because we're mature. And they think, oh man, I wish, you know, I could find a mature guy. Well, no, you don't understand. We got mature because we got married. Yeah. That's what did it. Yeah. That's the major responsibility. The other version of this is military service. You know, we want to save this country. We would make mandatory military service for every boy for 2 years. You go into the military, you've dealt with soldiers, man. They're a whole different breed of guys. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. You know why? Because someone kicked the crap out of them and made them grow up. And I said, well, they're too young. These guys are operating multi-million-dollar pieces of equipment flawlessly every single day. Don't tell me they can't do this when they're 18, 19, 20 years of age. And then these moms, well, you know, he can't, he's too immature to keep his promise. Yeah, whose fault is that? Mom? You've had this kid for all these years and he can't just keep his word? I mean, that's ultimately what marriage is, right? Keep your word. Make a promise, keep the promise. Yeah. It's, you know, not much more complicated than that. It's hard, but that's the fundamental. Yeah. So you've raised little narcissistic monsters who are incapable of making a commitment. Parents and grandparents today, they threaten their kids. You get married too young, I won't pay for your college, I won't pay for your wedding. They are literally doing the stupidest thing on earth to their kids, and all it's doing is causing the kids to run around and have sex anyway. So, well, he's in college, you know. So what? Well, studies have shown that the married kids in college do better than the single ones. Particularly the boys. They're finally getting sex. They can think about something else for 5 minutes, right? It's unbelievable the disaster we've created from this nonsense. You're threatening your kids not to pay for their college. Shame on you. You call yourself a Christian, you need a swirly. You know what a swirly is? It's when you take someone's head, you stick it in a toilet, and you flush it. And hopefully the swirling sensation will knock them out of their delusions. All this nonsense.
I know, but, you know, I mean, I don't know if you're probably not self-aware because you just are being you. But what you're saying is common sense, but it comes with some real unbending truth. You're not playing games. You assume your people you're talking to are adults, and they need to know what is true so they can make good decisions instead of coddling and let's make sure it's not too hard. And it's like, You always grow more from pain than pleasure. Always. If
Always.
if I
Always
did two columns and said, here's column one, I went to Hawaii and sat on the beach and drank margaritas. Okay, so what did you learn from that? Hawaii's beautiful. It was fun. What else you learn? Yeah, I just like vacation. Okay, then have your other column next to you. Where some horrible thing happened. You lost your job. Somebody died that you loved. It was horrible. What did you learn? I learned that I can trust God even when things seem ridiculous. I've learned that I can get through the things I could. And suddenly the list goes like this, and you go, the one that really gave you something was the hard list, the pain list, the one that you didn't want to go through. And the happy stuff is a benefit. It's icing on the cake. You never learn anything from it. You just enjoy it. And there's nothing wrong with having some enjoyment, but most of life sucks. It's hard. And I love that you, as a pastor, have the balls to act like one, because the lack of warrior, courageous pastors in this nation has destroyed the American church. It just has. We used to be the black-robed regiment that would finish your Bible lesson, shut your Bible, take off your robe, get your musket, grab your men that you just taught, and you went and fought a war. And those guys are fewer and far between. So, I'm just saying, you're my friend, so it's not like I have any other ulterior motive, but I appreciate men who are in a pastoral role, because not everyone can do pastoring. It's a specific call. I couldn't do it because I would either hang myself or them after like week one. And you, who I know are similar, frankly, about not putting up with idiots, but you have the temperament and the ability to help shepherd these folks through even when they're idiots. And God bless you, brother, because I can't do that. I wanted to ask you then, because you are such an expert, you've done who knows how many thousands of conferences now, and I'm guessing you've also done a lot of counseling as a pastor, actual people who actually came in and said, my marriage is in the toilet, what do I do? So let's get maybe a little bit of information to help people who are watching this. We can't do this work for you. So if you're looking for some magic solution to make your marriage work by doing A, B, and C, or even a scripture verse, you're going to be sorely disappointed, because none of that, there is no magic formula. But let me ask you just a few things about what you have learned that maybe we could pass on to give some people some hope, especially when they think their marriage is specifically more difficult than everybody else's, and that's what we always think. You don't know my wife. I'm sure your wife is fine, but mine is extraordinarily difficult, or whatever. So let's start biblically, and then I'm going to ask you a couple more questions. So we have a biblical mandate. I think the man has the heart of gig. He's told, love your wife as Christ loved the church. That's a lot to ask. I got to forgive when they don't deserve it. I got to be empathetic when I don't want to be. I've got to be kind when they're not kind to me. I've got to lift them up when I feel like they're not doing. There's all this ridiculousness that goes with loving your wife as Christ loved the church. But what, from your experience in real time, that edict by the Bible that you and I follow, how do you teach that particular passage, to love your wife as Christ loved the church? We'll start with the men. What does that mean to you? How does one go about that in real time?
I think it's self-explanatory. It doesn't, when I listen to Christians talk about marriage, they quote, that verse, and that's all they quote. It's like, it's not that deep. People write books on this stuff. I think people are thinking too hard. How hard is this? Love your wife. Don't be a jerk. Wives, respect your husbands. Don't be a jerk. But part of the problem here is expectations. First of all, you say from a biblical standpoint, the fundamental biblical standpoint is once you get married, that's it. You're done. There's no other options. And people don't believe that anymore. They just don't. They think, I can always get divorced. I can always leave. So that's their outs. They don't take it that seriously. That's problem number one. But once the problem I found practically is people don't understand each other. Women don't understand men. Men don't understand women. And when a woman doesn't understand why her man acts the way he acts, it frustrates her, because she expects him to think like women do. And men do the same thing back. Although I got to tell you, this won't be very popular. And if you have a problem, write to Brad Stine.
Brad Stine Has Issues.com.
Yeah. It's more from a female problem. I'm telling you. 80%
What is more
of
from a
divorces,
female problem?
this frustration,
Oh.
not understanding men. They don't get it. They think a man should be like a woman. And the churches, I think a lot of ministries have really played into this. They placate to this. You know, a man should be loving and caring and riding on a white horse. Really, you know, how about we just do life? You know what marriage is? Doing life together, paying the bills, you know, raising kids, changing poopy diapers, you know, but we keep raising. They think they're helping. Brad, I don't think they're helping. You know, and now the ladies say, I've heard, you know, well, we need to strive for spiritual intimacy. I don't know what they're talking about. I'm a pastor. I have no idea what they're talking about. Apparently, sexual and emotional intimacy is so easy, we just jack it up to spiritual intimacy. What the heck are they talking about?
Yeah.
I've been serving God for a long time. I smuggled Bibles into the Iron Curtain back in the day, risked my life to advance the cause of Christ. Pretty familiar with my Bible. I have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And they keep jacking it up and all these unreal. You know, I was being focused by, interviewed by an organization. I don't want to say their name, but they tend to focus on the family. Anyway, this lady asked me, Pastor, don't you believe a man is supposed to meet all the emotional needs of a woman? And I said, no. You should have seen the reaction. What? I said, who taught you that? And then there's a offering. It's not man's obligation to meet all the emotion. No, it's not a man on earth designed to meet all the emotional needs of a woman. Now, if you're a woman and you're hearing this blather, and now you're upset with your husband. First of all, you're upset with him anyway because he's an idiot. Now you're upset because he's not meeting all the emotional needs of your life. How have we helped anybody here? All they've done is make it worse, at least this one particular lady. I won't say they're all doing it. I'm just saying, but there's a lot of this going out there. I looked at her, I said, woman, you're crazy. There's not a man on earth designed to meet all the emotional needs of a woman. What should I do? Get a girlfriend. Good grief. You expect your husband to be your best girlfriend. That's what they're doing. I got news for you. Men make terrible girlfriends. We're horrible at it. We're horrible at it.
Well,
You need to sit and talk. And women love to talk, you know.
Yeah.
They'll spend 3 hours discussing a 5-minute event in their life in the day. You know, a guy didn't want to do that.
Right.
Go find some other girls. Go have a great time. Leave your husband alone.
Well, listen.
Makes money.
I mean, I think you're spot on, and I've been married 30 years last August, so I know how difficult it is and so forth. So you're not telling me anything that I haven't experienced, but.
Do you meet all the emotional needs of your wife?
I don't know if I've ever gotten one met somehow. I might have scratched the surface. I might have sent her a letter that she read somewhere that made her tear up. I don't know.
Accidentally. Yes.
But yeah, I backed into it one time somehow.
But you see when you get those kind of expectations, how ruin everything. See, it makes it worse. It's like you're a guy, you want a car, okay, and they come along and say this car will get 200 miles a gallon, and you really believe this, and you buy the car, and 100 miles you got to fill up for gas, and now you're mad as all get out. Why? I was told I get 300 miles a gallon. Well, it's absurd. By creating these high expectations, all it does is make people frustrated.
Right.
And I think we need to stop. My whole conference is about just trying to get people to understand why they do what they do. That's all I do. I don't try to change anybody.
Yeah.
Women, this is how men think. This is how they work. Guys, this is how women think. This is the way it works. Suck it up, buttercup. It'll be fine. Right? You're not supposed to be the all in all for another human being.
Right. Well,
these girls get married. Oh, good Lord. They get married. They are convinced that marriage is going to fill them with joy. God did not create marriage to make you happy. You're supposed to be happy in the first place. They're literally putting so much expectations on this institution. And I'm talking from a Christian standpoint, and Hollywood does it too. There's an over-romanticization. We should know better, but apparently we don't. So we make it even worse. We buy into Hollywood nonsense and we build all this other nonsense on top of it. And it just frustrates people to no end. The reality is this is not that complicated. It's not easy, but it is not complicated. You don't have to go to 15 classes, and hours of research and stuff to do this. It's just so much simpler than what everybody makes it out to be. So my whole conference thing, I'm kicking over holy cows and trying to get people to simplify.
Yeah, and that's exactly true. But I think what you just said is kind of summarized in the Tale of Two Brains, because one of the things that you are doing, and everybody's laughing, it's delivered in a way that's palatable, because a lot of people come to these conferences and they're not in good shape, and they have this sort of preconceived notion that my wife's against me, or he's against me, or we're never going to get past this, and they've created this wall between themselves. They don't trust each other. They don't believe in each other anymore. And so what you do is you bring down the laughter so that they can kind of enjoy the experience together. But then you, like you said, you don't point the fingers at, hey, husband, you're not a good enough husband. You suck at being a husband. It's like, look, I know that. That's why I went to a marriage conference, because I don't know what I'm doing. But then, God bless you, Mark, you'll go to that woman and say, oh, by the way, you're not any better. So I don't know where you came up with the idea that because you're a woman, somehow you have some past, some kind of, we need to, which we do on Mother's Day, right? That was the joke. We put out the pedals so they can walk, so we don't have to damage their feet as they walk down our aisle. And we put them on some kind of, chariot, so we can get them, because it's Mother's Day, we give them flowers, and we rub their feet while we tell them how impossible the world could have survived without women. And then men's Father's Day comes, and we're like, we don't get jack. I don't get a wrench. I don't get a Glock. I could take a Glock.
They get chewed out.
Yeah, I don't get any of it. I'm told how I suck at being. It's like, I know I suck at these things. But I do want to ask you this, though. The beauty of A Tale of Two Brains is you do expose it without anybody feeling singled out, like the guy saying, hey, women, you suck because of A, or hey, guys, you suck because of. You're not doing that. You're saying, here's how they think, here's how you think. So you get to draw your own conclusions. Oh, yeah, my wife does it. Nobody feels intimidated or feels like they're being singled out, like they're doing something wrong. So you expose a way to see the other sex that we don't understand. But we have to make this work somehow. So if a man doesn't have all the wires connected and feel all the emotions, and that is what they need, it's a way that they get through their life, because it's the way they're wired, like we aren't. So what does a man do? What can he do that is logical and is fair to expect out of him to try to help in those areas that she needs, that he doesn't really know how to do it, but he says, I love you enough to try to figure out some ways to help you. Is there something a man can do to fill those gaps without trying to be a woman?
Well, I think you just try. It's like when you go to Mexico and you have to speak Spanish. And you massacre the language, and you said whatever you can, el baño, I got the toilet, how do I get, and you do your best that you can. Again, if you go to Mexico and people start yelling at you because you don't speak fluent Spanish, that's not helping anybody. They get you don't speak Spanish, but you're trying. Yeah. They actually enjoy it. They get a kick out of how much you massacre the language, but you're trying, that kind of thing. So I think when men and women interact, bend a little bit, stretch, do your best to try and relate, try to connect the wires as much as you can. Or ladies, try to simplify. A man compartmentalizes. Don't get mad at him because he doesn't connect all the wires. And understand, we're not evil. Men aren't evil. Women aren't evil. We're just men and we're women. It's just basically that simple. So what's the key? The key is to accommodate one another. And I don't think there's anything quite so simple. EDC.
Yeah. Well, in your experience then with counseling or what you've done, would you say there was what would you say is the biggest, and maybe you've already said it, but I'm just going to ask, what would you say is the biggest mistake men make when in regards to trying to make his marriage what he thinks it's supposed to be, and vice versa? Is there one kind of constant problem that always, they always think there's, and maybe it's not that simple. Maybe you already asked, but I'm just giving my viewers a shot to ask questions maybe they'd want to. What would be the biggest issue?
The problem is selfishness. It's just people are selfish. You get a guy who's a selfish jerk, and you get a woman who's being a selfish jerk, and they have different versions of it, but it always just boils down to selfishness. Every marriage ends for one reason and one reason only. You listen to people, they got 30 different reasons to why their marriage is. No, there's only one. Somebody or both get selfish, and they only want to, here's the things men and women do, but a lot of guys, more men do this. They'll say something that makes their wife go psychotic. Okay? It's like stepping on a landmine. Okay? And we've all discovered these, right? I've discovered it. Brad Steine's discovered it. Though your wife has different landmines than I might. You know, what in war, when somebody steps on a landmine, we all mark it and say, let's not go there again.
Yeah.
Because there's a landmine. But these morons keep stepping on the same landmine over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And what is wrong with you? Every time you do A, your wife gets mad. Yeah. Then stop it. I shouldn't have to. Well, I shouldn't have to work for a living. I should make millions of dollars just for showing up and being pretty. It's so absurd. Why would you keep doing something? And the same thing with some women. You know, my husband gets really angry every time I say something. Then stop it. You know, it's like that comedy routine with Bob Newhart. He's a psychologist, remember?
Yeah.
And it's like he's scared to death of being buried alive in a box. And his answer is, well, stop it.
Yeah, right.
And people, they don't want to. It can't possibly be that simple. Yeah, it is. Quit being a jerk. If you know I was just talking to a woman. Her husband, she'd tell me all these horrible things. So let me, what are you saying before this? Well, I'm just saying, I think, that he should have quit his job, or he should have done it different or something. I said, every time you mention that's when he says this stuff. Yeah, then stop it. So why are you saying this to him? Well, I don't know. I just think it's important. No, stop it. She stops it, and everything's fine. You know, why keep doing the same stupid thing over and over again? If every time you do X, A, B, C, whatever it is, your spouse has a fit, you stop it. And every man has done this. We've all learned there's some things that you can say or do around your wife that she's going to want to cut your head off. And at 30 years, you learned, yeah, let's not do that anymore.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
let's quit setting this off.
Like I said, you're practical and you kind of don't make it too complicated. And I know people get frustrated with you sometimes because they want some magic bullet answer that makes it, because they're saying right now, they're yelling at the screen going, well, it's not that easy. Well, you don't know what my wife, you don't know what she says to me. It's not just stop it. There's more pieces of this puzzle, or she calls me names, or certain things she crosses the line, or he.
Well, they do that. You know how many guys tell their wife she's a bitch? Christian men.
Yeah.
You stupid bitch. If I called my wife a bitch, she would kill me and bury me in the backyard and tell everybody I was on a mission trip. I mean, for heaven's sakes, what idiot does this? But you want? Well, we never have sex. I can't imagine why. What version of you stupid bitch is going to make her want to climb into bed with you? They do things like this. Guys do. Christian elders in churches do this to their own wives, curse at them and stuff like that, and they feel perfectly justified. And they want to know what's my problem. You're a moron. That's your problem. So I think sometimes if you're stuck, go get help. That's why there's counselors. That's why there's stuff. I avoid it with like the plague now. I hate marriage counseling.
Really?
I hate it.
Oh, you don't?
Brother,
personally, yeah.
I don't do it anymore. No, I used to.
Yeah.
But it's just exercise of futility. I mean, you got two people sitting there, and they just insist on keeping doing the one thing that terrifies. You know, like some of these guys. Oh, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to keep my job, and we're gonna lose money, and they keep their wives and children terrified.
Yeah.
Financially. You're a man. You're supposed to protect your family. You got those fears, go find another guy and talk it out. Don't emotionally vomit all over your wife, you nitwit. And the thing is, I can tell them this, Brad, and they'll stare at me.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, come back and they keep doing it. Here's the thing: you go to counseling, they'll tell you to do ABC, and they come back and they didn't do it. And you come back next week, they didn't do it again. They come back and they say, "What are you supposed to do?" I don't know what these people think is going to happen. Someone's going to sprinkle more pixie dust and change it. The reason you're in a mess is because of what you do, and it's both men and women. And here's a question I always ask when people come to me. Ask a couple comes in and says, "So on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being hell and 10 being heaven, where would you rate your marriage?" And it's the one with the lowest rate, the one who's the most upset, is every time I've done it, they're the ones that need to change. And I promise you, people hearing this right now are mad. "Oh, it's not my fault. If you're way more upset than your husband, you know what the problem is? It's you. Yeah. If you're more upset than your wife, you know what the problem is? You're the problem. It's almost absolutely predictable. Wow. Because they get so determined in what they want and the way they want it, and the things aren't going the way they think it should go, and oh my goodness gracious. So I don't know, man. Well, I do my basic thing. I try to explain the general differences between men and women, and then y'all go for it from there. If you're so stuck and you can't figure it out, go find a counselor. Don't call me. Yeah. Find a counselor and try and listen to them. Yeah. And they tell you to do. Mainly, they'll try to identify things that are triggering each other, and then stop it. Yeah. Why keep triggering? You know. Well, and the truth is, you're just like my ex-wife. Yeah. Why would you say that to somebody? Right. Oh my gosh, you're just like your mother. Are you an idiot? Yeah. But they do it anyway. Yeah. And they won't stop. Yeah. And a lot of, I'm very negative on the whole thing. 80% of people who go in for counseling end up in divorce anyway. Well, but here's another challenge. So you got married, when you got married to your first wife, you were, what, 18 or something? 18 years old. And how old was she? You both were 18? 19. She was an old lady. And so you were young. She was a cougar. She was. And you got married young, which is exactly what you recommend. And how long were you married? 45 years. So you had 45 years of experience to tell people, let me tell you how marriage works, because I did it for 45 years. It's not a theory. It's not a book. It's not some kind of counsel. It's not some kind of the latest fad of the Christian whatever. I did it. Now, clearly, Mark, there are people with different personality traits that maybe are more easygoing, or maybe they can get through stuff easier than others. Some people's lives were miserable. They grew up in crappy homes. I mean, that's true. People have different personality traits, then they can't negotiate life with others as easily as others. And you seem to be pretty go with the flow kind of guy, and straight up. You're honest. I think that's important in marriage. Hey, babe, when you do this, I can't. You don't like it. It's not working good. Oh, okay. But if you don't tell them, they don't know they can't do it. So you got to at least be open in that communication. But you're married for 45 years. Is there anything in that time frame that you learned that you could pass on to others, because it was so long? Because you made and only because tragically your wife passed away, that is the only reason that marriage ended. But you did exactly what you said. You made a vow to your wife, which is what we're supposed to do with marriage. It's not a ceremony. It's a vow in front of a pastor who's representing God in a sanctuary, representing some holy place, in front of not guests, witnesses who are supposedly holding you accountable to this vow. That's what it used to be. It was sacred. It was like, this is the mafia. You don't get out now. That's what it used to be. But what would you say was the greatest lesson you learned from 45 years of marriage, if you could boil it down to a nutshell, for folks who are just getting started? One of the things that people are always told is most important thing in marriage is always be honest with how you feel. And I think it's the dumbest piece of advice. People say, how you been married for 45 years? I always say, because we're not honest with how we feel. Don't be such a jerk. You think you're going to make somebody mad? Shut up. Shut the hell up. And I'm not cussing, because some of this stuff comes straight from hell. It's a theological statement. Shut the hell up and quit going after stuff. Goodness gracious. You know, and I'm not just talking about women. I'm talking about a lot of guys. The worst ones are men. Well, I just got to tell you how I feel. Really, dude, shut up.
Yeah.
Just shut up.
Yeah.
Look, be nice. 2 words. You want to succeed in marriage? Be nice. Look, we're going to fight. I'm cool with that. Everybody's got to fight. It's the couples that avoid fighting that eventually get in the worst situation. So you got to fight. But at least that has a point.
Yeah.
You know? I'm talking about this just open-ended emotional vomiting when I don't like this and I don't like that. Really, shut up. Be nice. Speak grace.
I know you don't like, psychobabble and this and that, and so I don't want to get into that. But again, I'm just trying to glean from your expertise because you lived it and you teach it. So you said you're gonna fight. You are. People don't realize that. So is there anything you could recommend when you fight that makes it more productive and healthy as opposed to hurtful and demeaning to each other?
Yes. Go online, markgunger.com, buy my book, Laugh Your Way to a Better Marriage. I got a whole chapter in how to fight.
Nice.
And not to fight. And I don't want to go through a whole chapter here with you. I'm just saying, yeah, there's advice. But here's the thing people don't understand. The door to intimacy is conflict. You cannot get close to someone truly if you don't have conflict with them. These people are just all afraid, we're going to fight. It's not the end of the world. And a lot of these real peace-natured people that they're always freaking out and they come unglued every time there's conflict in the marriage, and they eventually get divorced. They're the people who are always running from arguments. And ironically, they never get what they want, which is peace. You can't get to peace by running from conflict. Conflict is the door to intimacy. Now, conflict doesn't mean stabbing each other with a butcher knife. It doesn't mean calling each other horrible names. It's just we got to wrestle this through. We got to wrestle this through to find resolution, to find some peace. But you got to be willing to bend.
Yeah.
I got this one idiot. Forgive me. People say, Pastor, you shouldn't call people. I'm sorry. Just chalk it up in one of my sins. I can't deal with it. Just can't take it. So this guy goes hunting, right? And his wife would always say, where are you hunting? And he didn't want to tell her. I don't know why. Why would you? And it caused a major division. They eventually got divorced. Well, how stupid are you? Why would you do that? She wants to tell her where you're going. She doesn't need to where I'm going. I mean, and he literally was just out hunting. He just didn't want anybody to tell him what to do. This kind of thing. It's stuff like that. It's just being mean, not being kind, triggering each other. There's just no sense to it.
Well, I did tell them about Laugh Your Way as a conference, but the book is something you can get on Amazon as well, I'm guessing?
Nah, I'd stay out of Amazon. They take all the money, man. Have you done Amazon?
I probably. So they can go to laughyourwaytobettermarriage.com, or how do they get you?
MarkGungor.com.
MarkGungor.com. Well, I'm going to let you go because I know you travel a lot, but I did mention to you prior to us meeting, there was one question I had here, and I do want to bring it up, only because I've never heard anybody address this before, and I thought it might be helpful to somebody. When your first wife, beautiful wife, passed away, and you were an honorable man, you were with her through the end, it had to be, I can't even imagine, watching your loved one pass away to cancer. But you were there, and you did it. And shortly there, I don't know how long, but as your life went on, what's that? What's that?
Shortly.
Yeah.
It was shortly.
Yeah. So like 3 minutes later,
maybe not that bad, but fairly short, yeah.
But shortly thereafter, you met a woman who you knew through mutual connections or whatever. I don't know how it worked exactly. I've not met her yet personally, but I'm looking forward to that. And she has been an amazing new relationship for a new season in your life that you didn't choose, but it's what you got. And both of your lives are moving forward with a little different angle to it, because it's two different people reconnecting at an older age and saying, let's finish this together. But you got a lot of pushback. I remember this because I remember it happening, about people kind of judging you like, how are you just jumping in? What's going on? She's not even, dead a year, and you as though people get to decide how long you have to grieve or what is an appropriate time to rediscover whatever God has for you on the next phase. So in whatever way you'd like to, but to address that, because I'll bet you a lot of people have endured that, and no one's ever sort of given them permission to choose their own grieving process and coming out the other side, because it's really nobody's business. But you got kids involved, you got friends involved who knew the previous spouse. They feel protective for them, maybe, I don't know. But tell me, if you could, just quickly, what's your thoughts on how you negotiated that and how you felt about the way people treated you during that process?
Okay, well, first of all, the promise is until death, not death plus, not death plus. And by the way, you're not married forever. People actually think this. Brad, Christian people go to churches. You know, I've had people say, well, when you get to heaven, who's your wife going to be now? The level of biblical ignorance is at an all-time high.
Yeah.
Jesus was very clear. There is no marriage in heaven. It's one of the reasons they call it heaven, for heaven's sakes. Goodness gracious.
That's a good line.
I'm a big fan. I just signed it for round 2, but I'm not doing this forever.
Yeah.
Anyway, the promise is until death, not death plus. All right? Biblically, you know what the mourning period was? Like 10 days.
10 days.
David, Abigail, her husband, somebody killed him. I think he had it coming. And after a week of mourning, David married her right away. Boom. Nobody said snot about it. Why? That's fine.
Yeah.
What's not cool is you being with other women while your wife's still alive. That's not cool.
Yeah.
So all this stuff of waiting for a year or who's going to, you're going to be married to someone else in heaven is just ignorance, number one. But number two, usually when someone dies suddenly, let's say your wife, God forbid, dies tomorrow, that's a shocker, man.
Yeah.
You are devastated. It takes people sometimes years to recover from that. Or even if she gets a diagnosis and she's in the hospital struggling, you're going through hell, and a few months later they're gone. A lot of people listening to me right now have gone through this. They know exactly. But then you've got people who've had spouses that were sick for years. My wife battled cancer for 20 years. My son told me, I never thought about this. He says, there was never a time when I remember that my mom wasn't sick. He grew up with this. I mean, it was just so. And the whole time, and anybody, I've spoken about this around the world, right? Every time I talk to people like this who've been through it, I've never had one disagree with me. If they had long-term sickness, they all knew exactly what I was talking about. Because the entire time, you are mourning. You are mourning. You're crying. I'm flying from place to place, like you do. I'm in Stockton, California right now, getting ready to speak tomorrow night. Which, by the way, we discovered Stockton is the second most dangerous city in California.
Yeah, but you're on gun, so I'm sure you're armed.
So anyway, you're going through for years and years, and you're in airports and you're crying, and you're driving your car, you're crying. I mean, you're mourning. You're going through this thing for years, and then when they finally pass, you know what sensation you have? Relief, and you feel guilty as all get out. And again, as I talk to people like that, I'll go, I know exactly what you're talking about, because it's hard. You have no idea how hard this is. Anybody just blather, got these opinions. You have no idea what it's like to take care for someone who can't care for themselves, and you love them, and you're carrying them around, and you're putting them on the toilet, and you're wiping their butts, and you got to do everything for them. It is hard. It is exhausting. It is traumatizing. And then when they finally pass, there's this sense of relief, and then you feel guilty as all get out for that. And then you mourn still. I mourn heavily for about a week, quite frankly. And then I caught my breath, and I was ready to move on. I just was.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, you're both healed, frankly. You're able to be free to live a life that is not looking at the one you loved in a way that was not the highest quality of life, and it was difficult, and she clearly is free. I know that there's nobody, and we've all lost loved ones. If they're Christ followers, They don't give a crap about us. They're in good shape. We're the ones that
Yeah, I know
we're
exactly
still down
right.
here. They ain't wondered. She's not up there going, if Mom could just hurry up and get back here so I can really start enjoying it. That ain't happening because she's in glory. And that's the great hope. That's why we've committed our life to this idea that there is a redemption day for all of us because we're all terminally ill.
But the ones that are the meanest are family members, children, and close, like you mentioned earlier, friends and stuff like that. They somehow, like you said, they feel like they're defending, the person who's passed, and they're saying, "Well, you're forgetting about your wife." No one's forgetting about them. Anybody's going through this, they never forget. I never forgot. I still haven't forgotten.
Yeah.
Why? Because you get married, and why have you forgotten? No one's forgotten anything.
Yeah.
Right? But you just, at some point, you decide you want to move on.
Yeah.
Now, usually when women become widows, they tend to be widows for years. When men become widowers, they tend to remarry within months. Just Google it. You'll see. Why is that? Because men don't function very well by themselves. It's a different thing. Women, I don't know how to run a washing machine. I don't know how to do anything. I mean, I can fly an airplane, jet-powered airplane, land in Green Bay in the middle of the night with winds and snows blowing and do a perfect landing. But I don't know how to run a washing machine.
Yeah.
Spin. How
Yeah.
fast does it spin? Does it matter? What what will happen if I'm going too slow or too fast?
But that's the beauty of marriage is we literally do complete each other in the areas we're not good at. That's the fun that we need each other because you have pieces I don't have. We have to come together. And often,
Yeah, but guys tend to suffer more when the wife is gone. It's just the reality of it.
wow.
All I had, my wife died, was me and a stupid cat and cornflakes, and it really sucked. And I said, I'm not staying like this. I put it on Facebook. I ain't staying like this. I'm getting married as soon as I can find someone I can do life with. And everybody's terrified. Oh, be careful, because their version of marriage is a loaded revolver. Don't put it to your head and pull the trigger, right? It's because they don't understand marriage.
Yeah.
Marriage is not life sucking. If you do this right, marriage is life giving. I wanted to be married. And that's the other thing. People who had great marriages, they want to get married again right away. And by the way, if you have a father or a mother who they're widows or widowers and they have gone on and married someone, do not be mean to them. Some of y'all listening to me right now, you need to call your mom or your dad and say, "Hey, I want to apologize. You give them a hard time because they started moving on and accuse them of forgetting something. You have no idea what you're talking about. Be kind, be gracious to people. There is no set mourning time. Everybody does it differently, and especially those who did through a long illness, they tend to marry quicker. It just is. And again, the promise is until death, not death plus.
Yeah.
And again, show me in the scriptures anywhere where it says how long you got to mourn, and you will see if you look in them. And it's amazing. You got this little thing. You just type in a question, and it'll give you the answer. What was the biblical mourning period? You'll find out most people it's like 10 days.
Yeah.
That's all it was. There wasn't this big production where someone has to stay by themselves for years on end because you're an insecure kid. I've talked to so many people about this, and it's just sad.
Yeah.
How miserable their kids and how awful they've been. It's hard enough to lose a spouse. Now, my kids weren't like this, but I've attacked them and stabbed them in the back because they're so disapproved of their remarrying. Don't do that to people, all right? God forbid you have to go through the same thing. Social mercy and grace. Show some mercy and grace in these situations. And don't be mean to people.
Yeah. Yeah. God bless you. Well, I appreciate you telling me that.
That's all I got to say about it.
I feel like it was important to talk about because again, it's a one area I've never really heard anybody do much. I've certainly never heard a sermon on it, but just when I remember you going through that, it was just kind of hurtful for me because you were just trying to move on with your life, man, and be happy like your wife would have wanted you to be. And people come after you, and it just, anyways, you're my friend.
He literally told me. Now this has nothing to do with it, but my wife literally told me, several months out, I don't think I'm going to make it. You need to start thinking about who else you're going to marry. I mean, she literally was pointing me in the direction. Pastor, were you looking before your wife died? I was. She told me to. I mean, it literally was, who can I do life with now? After where I'm going next? You know, that kind of thing. People hear this and they're mortified. Oh, how horrible. You know, they've never been through this. They don't know what they're talking about. Yeah. And again, it's not about forgetting anybody. It's about just moving on and doing life. And you can remember someone. It's not the exact same thing, but if you have a friend, you don't stop having friends again if your friend dies.
Right.
You get other friends.
Right.
Does that mean you forget the friend? No. You still remember the friend. It's the same kind of thing. I don't know what the big mystery is here.
Right. Well, clearly you're a catch. And I'm sure, I'm sure your new wife is on her knees, right? She probably has camel knees. Oh, for crying out loud!
She's fully dressed. She's fully dressed. It looks like she's naked. She's not. She's fully dressed.
I didn't mean to invade your sanctuary, my brother.
We're in a hotel. It's what we do. We live in hotels. You live in hotels. What are you talking about?
You're gonna have to save this for another podcast. But I have mine is PG-13, so I have to move on. But listen, man, it's always great to talk to you, Mark. Seriously, you're a good friend. You're a good man. You've been an inspiration to me. God bless you. Thank you for coming on and helping and sharing with people the biggest problem that we're going to deal with in life, outside of not knowing God, is how to get along with each other when one of them is a male and one of them's the female. So thanks for your expertise. Thanks for being there. Enjoy Stockton. I'm sure it smells like fertilizer, so enjoy that. And be grateful you're one of the few conservative areas of California. And so you will be welcome there. And I'm going to see you in a few months in Green Bay. So look forward to seeing you again face to face, meeting your wife.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Enjoying it. So, well, God bless you, brother. Thanks so much, Mark. I appreciate it.
You know, I've never met your wife.
Well, you did. We got together once when we got together once when you were in Nashville and we had dinner years ago. But you'll remember, and you'll see why my life is.
I remember where I was this morning.
But God bless you, brother. Thanks so much, buddy.
All right, God bless.
Well, I hope you enjoyed Mark. He is, as you saw, exactly what I told you, a very unique man, a very unique Christian, a very unorthodox pastor, one of a kind. If you have a marriage that is in struggle or could use some help, and you see he's going to be in your town, go promise me you'll go to Laugh Your Way to Better Marriage Conference. You will enjoy it. It could bring some healing. If there's something that's a few hours away, go to it. Nothing is more sacred other than God than your marriage, because it's holy and it's sacred. Go get help and see that we don't think the same, but we need each other desperately. Yes, I know sometimes it seems like, no, I don't need a woman, no, I don't need a man, but we do. We fill each other, we complete each other. We literally, in the Bible says, we become one flesh. So, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it might have been helpful to some of you. Cara and Boyd, hope it helps you in that relationship. You said you got a good man now. I hope this is something you guys can work together. Maybe you watch by candlelight and eating sardines. Who am I to judge? But here's what I do say as I leave you. If you want a Christmas gift, being a Christian without being an idiot, $55, just say, I'd like that, or how many? And it's a little pricey, but that's because it is a donation to Stine Has Issues Ministry. All you do is say, here's the receipt, I paid for it, or how many you paid for it, and then you private message me, here's where you send it, and here's who I'd like you to sign it to. And I'll send it out. If you just want to give because you don't want that, and you want to have a tax break before the year is out, we're trying to raise about $30,000 to have something to allow us to get through next year, and so forth. So that's kind of our goal right now, to get us to the next step. And there might be some interesting things coming that I'll tell you about if and when they come. In the meantime, pray for us. Keep watching us. Please share. Please share. Please tell all your friends. We have to circumvent all the algorithms and get people to watch, because obviously of the 350,000 followers I have, 100 get noticed that I am on live. So you can help. We can make this happen. Our job, our mission is to help and assist each other in the territory that we happen to live, happen to work, happen to be born, happen to inhabit. We are responsible for that territory to tell the single most important story of all time, that God is real and He loves us. And then that we need to be Americans and love this nation and be grateful for it, because it's given more good than any other nation in history. The end. No apologies. Why do I not apologize? Because I'm not a Marxist. I'm a capitalist. I'm a free market. I am a republic. So I despise Marxism, which, in the form of cultural Marxism, became known as political correctness, or PC. So as I always say to my friends and family, and fans, PC free is liberty. If somebody says you're not being politically correct, you say, thank you for the compliment. This is God's comic, Brad Stine, always hoping I've entertained, inspired, and maybe, just maybe, made you think. Why? Because all I'm doing is putting the woke back to sleep. See you next Monday.